Hey guys, welcome back to Magnets Tutorials. Today we're going to be doing something different and talking about the last ladder map that they're going to be introducing in 2015 Season 1. As you can see on the screen here, what has been removed are King Sejong Station, Overgrowth, Merry-Go-Round, and Nimbus, and they've been replaced by 4 new maps. I've already talked about the other 3 in other videos, so go back and check those out. I'm just doing them in alphabetical order because that seems like the way that cool people do it. And me striving to be cool, I decided to go alphabetical as well. Nevertheless, today we're going to be talking about Vaani or whatever research station, and actually just skipping through, I think I spelled it wrong in one place or another, but whatever. It's the same 4 letters, just different in multiples of them in different places. So whatever, I just realized I'm a bad speller, and let's talk about the map, shall we? And stop pointing out how bad I am. So what we're going to be looking at is kind of how this map operates from every little standpoint. It's a 2-spawn map, so your spawn points are here and here. So you will notice right away that there is a backdoor expansion that you can take. It is a medium-sized map, I would say. The travel distances are similar to something kind of like Korhal City, I think that was the name of that map, except for it was left to right instead of up to down. It's really similar to the same type of layout. Some interesting things about this map, though. The expansions are linear, so you will most definitely take these 3 bases pretty much no matter what. So it's not going to be a circular or a cluster type of expand map, it's going to be very linear. And I've labeled this map as hyper-offensive in the sense that you're always going to be rewarded for running aggression if you're a race that benefits from mid-game aggression. So that'll be an interesting little mechanic. One random thing that I know has nothing to do with anything, but the filter that they put on this map in-game makes my overlay look gray. It looks weird. I don't know if that's intentional or if it's a bug or if it's just me or whatever. But that's something that I noticed that kind of bothered me. So I don't know if that's going to change or whatever, but it's definitely a weird thing. The biggest component of this map, though, is you'll notice that the opening to the 3rd base is huge. This is probably the biggest opening to any 3rd base I think I've ever seen on any map. This is going to mean that PvZ and TvZ, especially anything against Zerg, is going to be overwhelmingly in favor of the Zerg. So, yay Zerg, you got a map that you're very heavily favored on ever since Daedalus got rotated out. It's a pretty big map. It's not huge, but most importantly, the areas are enormous that you're going to be fighting in. There's very few real choke points here, so compositions that get big advantages for having surface area are going to be the dominant portions of armies in these. I don't really know where this sentence is going. It kind of just stumbled and died, so that was awkward. But another thing to notice is that the natural area is really big, which means that things like drops are going to be a big deal. Things like warp prisms, if it comes down to that, are going to be a big deal. But also, the surface area on the front of these bases is really small. So this is almost like another Alterzim stronghold, except for it's a 2-player map and it's a lot smaller and a lot more open than Alterzim. So it's a weird map. Bases beyond a 3rd base especially will be really hard to hold, so I feel like most games are going to end before a 4th base is secured by either side. Reason being is because not only is the 3rd base super hard to hold because of how huge the arc is, the 4th base is just as bad, if not even worse. So if you have to cover this much space just to hold on to your 3rd and 4th bases, as well as this being wide open, it's going to give a huge advantage to races that can abuse the mobility of their army, and namely it's going to really eliminate Protoss's viability on this map pretty much entirely. So let's get into the matchups here. PvT, it's pretty obvious that I think we're actually probably going to get to a point where Protosses are going to have to find a way to Nexus first on this map, because they're going to have to find some way to get ahead, just because mid-game drops are going to be a big problem. It's a huge area to cover that is going to be really awkward to also try and cover your 3rd base from attacks that could even come in from this side. So what I think is going to happen is Protoss is going to have to open Stargate, and they're going to have to go into Phoenix fairly quickly and try to find a way to scrape together a Phoenix defense to start getting into Phoenix Colossus. Doom drops are going to be insane. Bio can do pretty much whatever they want here, even just straight up engage Colossus armies because they have all this surface area, and the Protoss army will probably sit in a place about like this size at this stage of the game. So if you have all this surface area, plus you could even flank from the side here, you could do little harassment moves back here, maybe with Hellions or something as well. A lot of big things are going to be going on this map, and a Terran player I would say that's going to absolutely love this is TY. He's going to be able to do Widow Mine drops and multi-pronging all day, and it's going to be crazy. So the only thing that I think Terrans can start getting in trouble with is starting to try and take CC first back here. If you're Terran, I would overwhelmingly say open Reaper on this map, because Protosses are going to try to cut corners to get faster expansions, and they might also try to abuse Terrans that try to take faster command centers by opening up with, say, like a proxy oracle over here or something. Or they could even just open Blink, since this isn't the hugest of areas, but it still is semi-significant in the sense that if someone goes CC first, Blink still could cause a decent amount of damage if you're not too careful. So I'd say if you're Terran, just open Reaper, play a normal game, just get into a stage where the Protoss is trying to take a third and just multi-prong them to death, and you should have really good success rates on this map. Overwhelmingly, I'm going to say that Terran is at favor on this map just because the drops are so easy to fly in here. The multi-pronging is huge, the multiple attack angles is huge, and these bases are fairly awkwardly shaped, so you could even get a drop going down right here while attacking in several different places as well. So the overall breadth of the map and the ability for Terran to kind of be everywhere at once definitely does give them advantage. So let's move on and talk about ZVP. ZVP is going to suffer from the exact same problems that TVP will, in the sense that this is the Nexus and this is all the surface area that Zerg has to attack however they want. So pretty much any aggression on a third base is going to be successful. Force fields are going to be worthless. Any sort of force field based attack is going to be worthless. If you're Zerg spawning down here and this is your base, there's no way they're going to ever get enough force fields to cut all this off. They could try to attack from this side, but at the same time you could just approach them and cut them off before they ever even get there, since there's so many open spots throughout the map that will definitely favor Zergs taking down Protoss armies. So force fields are going to be pretty much worthless. I'm going to go ahead and say that Protoss will need to be very aggressive if they ever want to try and play a longer game. So you might start seeing weird builds like, say you start putting down pylons over here and see a little bit of like Phoenix Zealot type of play is something I could definitely see. Or maybe really gimmicky plays like a Warp Prism trying to block off the ramp here could definitely be a play as well. So if you're Zerg, you definitely need to be looking out for really gimmicky stuff, and I'd say if you hold off the gimmicky stuff and you can prevent a Protoss third base from going down, you should have a really big advantage on this map. Also, something to note for Zerg is that pretty much any style they want to do on this map against Protoss is an option. You can go Roach Hydra, you can go Mutalisk, you can go Swarm Host. It doesn't really matter because Protoss is going to have such a hard time trying to get bases further out on the map. So really, if you're playing ZVP on this map, your mindset should just be hold off any gimmicky all-in crap and I should be totally fine. And for the most part, that should be true. Especially if you can get in a later stage of the game where you can take this gold fairly reliably. If you have Swarm Host or something, you decided to go for a style like that, this is pretty easy to cut off most of the map with your Swarm Host and static defenses, leaving fairly few options for Protoss to get around there. Mutalisks will also be pretty good on this map, considering there is a lot of dead space and these bases are really huge. So I could see Mutalisk constantly just kind of swinging back and forth and dealing damage wherever is necessary. So pretty much every style is an option for Zerg on this map. So overwhelmingly, I would say Zerg at a very big advantage on this map. So definitely don't veto this if you're a Zerg player. TVZ. This is going to be a kind of unique map here, because if you're looking at it from the Zerg perspective, this is going to be your third. There's no way you're going to want to take any other base other than this, right? So you try to take this base. There's still a lot of surface area here, making it so that Hellion run-bys could be kind of problematic. So what I think is going to happen a lot of the times is I think Zergs are going to kind of start to wall this off a little bit, maybe keep a queen there to prevent mass Hellion plays, and then they're going to start opening up Roach to start to try to push away the Hellions that'll try to take advantage of this wide open area down here. And if that's the case, on the other side of the map, if you're a Terran, the Terran will have to try to take their third base here once again, and if Roaches are attacking from pretty much all sides, that's where they start to get good against the things that Terrans will try to use against the roaches. So I feel like this is going to be kind of a Roach Hydra type of map if there ever was one. Mutalisk play will still be okay, but the biggest concern is that early in the game those big open third bases are going to be something that Terrans are going to want to take advantage of, whether it's with Hellions or Hellbat timings or something like that. Probably less so Hellbat timings so they don't get surrounded. But Hellions, maybe 2 factory Blue Flame Hellions will definitely be a thing on this map, so I'd look out for that. I'd say if you're Terran, your really good chance as far as getting ahead in this type of game is to open up with a really fast drop and run by type of play. That we see a lot of times again from TY. He'll do a lot of really simple, like small marine drops back here, try to deal some damage, and then he'll use his Hellions somewhere over here or somewhere in here. And I think dealing damage with Hellions is probably going to be the only opportunity you're going to have to play out in a normal game, because even once you start to get position on a third base of a Zerg, they still have so many attack paths to repel you from that it's just going to be so hard just to gain a good position with standard mind play and stuff that you're going to have to basically stay ahead economically for pretty much the whole game in order to have a decent chance. One other thing I would say though is that I think this is probably a decent map for mech, especially if you open up with that 2 factory Blue Flame Hellion, because then the mech, it seems like there's a lot to cover, but if you have a planetary here and a decent string of tanks, the surface area doesn't become all that huge if you're able to start to close it off with things like depots. Maybe you have a sensor tower so you can see out here a little bit further. Mech may be one of those compositions where you just get to a point where you deal enough damage in the early parts of the game, whether it's with Hellions or Banshees or whatever, and then you mold into a point of the game where you have an economic advantage, you can survive for a little while, and then you should have an okay advantage to make big 3-base mech plays. And I feel like that's the one way that Terran's really going to kind of hang around in this matchup on this map, but overall I would definitely say Zerg does have the advantage in this matchup on this map. So let's talk a little bit about mirrors here. One big problem with any in-base natural in PvP is that scouting back here is super hard, so most of the time you're going to be playing fairly blind. Blink won't be as strong on this map as it will be on others, so I feel like this is going to be a mostly Stargate or Robo Expand type of map. But the problem is that if people start getting too in love with Stargate play, then all of a sudden Blink becomes powerful because they ignore that threat. And because sometimes the Stargate player might not know exactly what's going on. Of course, the benefit is that if you open Stargate, you can fly a Phoenix or something straight to their base to see if they've expanded and kind of base your play based on that. So I do think that Stargate will kind of be the primary thing here. But unfortunately, this will be the one map in PvP where a lot of coin flips happen. Yeah, so PvP will be kind of weird. If the game ever gets to longer stages beyond just the openers, I would say this is definitely a Zealot Archon Immortal type of map because these openings again are so huge. Colossus will have a hard time trying to park themselves at a corner where they can reduce surface area and really get a good engagement against that. So this will be a lot about multi-pronging, a lot about faster army compositions than Colossus, stuff like that. TVT. This is one of the weirdest TVT maps I think I've ever seen, because most of the time in TVT is either mech versus bio or marine tank versus marine tank. This is a weird map where I would actually say that the tanks are not that important. And again, the reason being is because Doom drops in here. This is a lot of surface area. It's going to take an army forever to report over there. Doom drops are going to be huge. Run-bys can be huge. I think somebody just playing straight up bio against something like Marine Tank will actually probably get a decent advantage. And it sounds semi-ignorant, but this is a very strange map where tank positioning probably won't matter too much unless you are the person getting the tanks into a suffocating position on your opponent. So this is another weird map where defensive tanks aren't going to be very good, but offensive tanks probably will. And most of the time I feel like people would rather just not deal with the tanks either way, because even still, if you do get a good post with your tanks here, and say a good line of Marines, they can still kind of split up their forces here, have some here, have some here, have some there, and attack you from all sides and still kind of crumble your army a little bit. So I'm not sure what to think too much on TVT. I could just be overreacting to it, but I feel like tanks will be less used on this map than probably any other map in TVT that we've seen before. Obviously, Doom drops are huge. I think this is going to be one map where, rather than people opening up with things like Banshees and Hellions and stuff, I feel like this is going to be a map where people open up with fast upgrades, for their bio, fast stim and fast medevacs, to start getting quicker drops in there. Kind of a style that Marine King showed us just a little bit a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago, but maybe a few months ago when he started playing Starcraft again at a high level. So I don't know, that'll be weird. ZVZ, I feel like there's not going to be a lot of roach play on this map for the reason that Ling Baneling and a defensive third base type of battles are going to be really important. Because again, the surface area here is so big. Baneling battles won't be happening here because whoever controls the top of that ramp will have a huge advantage. But once a player tries to take their third base, whether they're going roach or whatever, I feel like it'll come down to who can cancel each other's third is going to get a big advantage. Or if you just straight up try to win those battles with defensive banelings, don't really care too much about roaches and then just go straight into Spire, you'll actually be in a better position than just opening roach. So this will be a fairly common Spire map, I think. But mostly this will be a lot about kind of sensing the game out and kind of winning based upon canceling someone's base or just getting better Ling Bane trades out in the middle of the map, as opposed to Ling Bane trades that are going to end the game if you get good connections. So a lot of interesting things to think about here, but mostly I'm going to say that Baning Nest will be late, Speed will be fairly late as well, but it'll all be centered around trying to cancel that third base. As far as each individual race, if you're Protoss, don't touch this map with the 10-foot pole. This map does not favor you in any way. Even PvP is bad on this map. I would go as far as to say even PvP is imbalanced, it's so bad, blah. But you definitely don't have any advantage in either one of the matchups against the other two races, so I would veto this map. For Zerg, you have a very big advantage in both of your matchups on this map. Maybe not a huge advantage against Terran, but definitely against Protoss. This is probably the best Zerg map that has come out in the last 6 months, I would say, ever since they got rid of Daedalus. As for Terran, I'd say you're good for TVP on this map. If you're good with mech, I'd say you're going to be okay against Zerg on this map, but you're going to have some points where you have really thin defense, and you're going to have to hit semi-gimmicky timings with mech in order for it to work out. Parade pushes are probably not going to work because this is still a fairly long distance, and there's still a lot of places where if you try to gain this position with your mines and stuff, that Zerg can still surround you from pretty much every angle. That it's probably not going to work out too well unless you really get a big advantage somewhere. So yeah, hopefully that at least answered some questions for you guys about the maps, and maybe you can start planning out your strategies that you're going to do on all these, or think a little bit more about them, or maybe think about what you're going to veto. But hope you guys enjoyed that breakdown on that map that I apparently spelled incorrectly because it says Vaani there and it says it a different way on the other screen, and I'm a fail speller. But the final map pool is Deadwing, Catalina, Foxtrot Labs, Expedition Lost, Inferno Pools, which I have to say Inferno Pools is a horrible name, Secret Spring, and Vaani Research Station, or Vaani, or however you want to say that. It's spelled with a V-A-N and an I, and the A and the I, or rather the A and the N are up for debate as far as whether you use two or just one. So yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be back with more videos. Stick around and subscribe if you like my stuff. I'll put out a lot more stuff in the near future, so check it out. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.